His phone buzzed, but this time, he didn't look back. Hours earlier, long before the suitcase by the door, before the quiet finality in his chest, and before the rain-soaked silhouette begging on the porch, Marcus Hartley had stared at the glow of his phone at 2:08 a.m., the moment everything cracked cleanly in two. He had been lying on his back, the soft hum of the ceiling fan breaking the silence. Sleep had been thin these past few months. He couldn't put his finger on why, not fully, though his instincts had been whispering, tugging, warning him about shadows he hadn't wanted to investigate. Still, when the notification lit up, he didn't expect a message that would cleave a marriage. Elena's name. A single text bubble. "You don't need to know who I'm with, we're on a break." There were no typos. No hesitation dots. No warmth. It was a text written by someone who hadn't made a mistake. Someone who had made a decision. Marcus stared at the message for a long second, the soft blue light washing over his expression. Not shock. Not confusion. Something colder. Something quieter. His grief did not erupt. It settled like silt at the bottom of a river. He exhaled slowly, the way he had been trained years ago when his heartbeat needed to steady under fire. Outside the window, a lone car rumbled down the street. Inside the bedroom, another vibration buzzed. This time it wasn't a message. It was her location ping. A soft, chiming sound that she probably forgot was even active. He clicked it out of reflex, habitual, not suspicious, and saw the pin drop onto a boutique hotel across town. A place known for its dim lighting, expensive drinks, and rooms rented by the hour as often as by the night. His pupils narrowed just slightly. He didn't text back. Didn't call. Didn't grab his keys. Instead, he laid the phone face down. He didn't need to see more. A glass of water sat half empty on his nightstand, and beside it was a framed photo. Marcus in uniform, sunlight harsh on the desert around him, arms around a group of fellow soldiers during a brief break in hell. Elena had once said that picture scared her, not because of the guns or the sand or the exhaustion on his face, but because of that look in his eyes. Cold, steady, unshakable. It was the look he wore now. He rolled out of bed calmly, barefoot on the hardwood. Something in him clicked quietly into place like a lock. This wasn't new. Betrayal didn't sneak up on highly trained instincts. It simply waited for the moment he could no longer justify the excuses he had been making for her. He walked to the bathroom sink, splashed water on his face and stared at himself in the mirror. Not angry. Not broken. Just finished. Like a man who had walked through enough storms to know which ones were survivable and which ones weren't worth fighting. In the mirror's reflection, a faint memory surfaced, a flashback he didn't ask for. Elena laughing months ago, brushing off a simple request. Define a break? Marcus, you're so serious all the time. A break just means a break. He should have heard the warning then. But now he heard it perfectly. The phone buzzed again from the bedroom. He didn't go to check it. He didn't need to. Something had ended before the sun even rose. Don't forget to hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories. Tap the notification bell so you never miss a twist. New tales drop every day. Marcus returned to the bedroom only when the silence became loud enough to feel physical. The phone sat on the nightstand, its screen dark now as if pretending innocence. He picked it up, not out of desperation but because he needed to see how far gone things were. The lock screen glowed. One missed alert. Location services. Elena Hartley, updated. He tapped it once. The map blossomed open, its soft digital pulse marking her exact coordinates at the boutique hotel. Room level 4. A clean, precise pin. She had always been careless with details, assuming he never paid attention. She never understood that Marcus noticed everything, even when he wished he didn't. He let out a long breath through his nose. Not shaky, controlled. He had learned to breathe that way when dust storms in the desert choked the air. When fear was a luxury he couldn't afford. When survival depended on choosing silence over emotion. Now that discipline served him again. Across the room, the small digital clock glowed red, 2:17 a.m. For the briefest moment, something flickered inside him. A memory of the early days. Her smile. The way she used to crawl into bed and cup his face like he was her safe place. But that memory dissolved quickly, swallowed by the stark contrast of her destructive choices. Marcus wasn't the type to chase someone who didn't want to be caught. He walked to the window and parted the blinds. The street was empty except for a stray cat darting beneath a street lamp. A quiet neighborhood at a quiet hour. No scandals here. No shouting matches. No dramatic confrontations in parking lots at 3 a.m. Elena probably expected something explosive, something she could justify emotionally. But Marcus's calmness was the last thing she anticipated. He closed the blinds and turned back toward the bed. He picked up the phone again, thumb hovering over her message. You reread it? You don't need to know who I'm with, we're on a break. Not, I need space. Not, we should talk. No attempt to cushion the blow. A break to her was a hall pass. She had always romanticized chaos. He had always stabilized it. That imbalance could hold for a while, until the person thriving in stability realized the chaos wasn't accidental. It was chosen. He set the phone down. He didn't pack. He didn't scream. He didn't drive to the hotel to take pictures or gather evidence. He didn't need evidence. Her own words were confession enough. Instead, he stepped toward the closet and ran his fingers along the fabric of one of Elena's dresses. A blue one he had bought for her birthday. She had worn it twice, each time spinning in front of the mirror, laughing like someone without secrets. Flashback, an old date night. Her whispering, "You make me feel grounded, Marcus. Like I can stop running." Maybe she meant it then. Maybe she believed it. But some people never stop running, they just pause long enough to catch their breath before sprinting again. And Elena had sprinted straight into someone else's arms. He released the fabric and let the closet door swing shut. With a decisive movement he switched off his phone. No dramatic gesture, just a quiet end to any illusion that this night would resolve itself. He climbed back into bed, not to sleep, but to wait for dawn like a man preparing for the next step of a mission. The final thought that drifted through his mind before sunlight crept over the horizon was simple, steady, and sharp. She had made a choice. Now he would make his. The morning arrived without the usual softness that filtered through their curtains. Instead, it carried a dry, metallic stillness, like the air right before a storm hits. Marcus heard the front door open downstairs. The sound wasn't loud, but in a house that had once been filled with warmth, even a soft click felt like an intrusion. He remained at the kitchen table, hands wrapped loosely around a mug he had barely touched. Steam drifted upward, untouched, fading. His phone lay face down beside him, still turned off. He didn't need it to be on. He already knew everything he needed to know. Footsteps approached, slow, hesitant, almost rehearsed. Elena appeared at the doorway. The moment she saw him, she froze. She still wore the same clothes from last night. Her blouse wrinkled. Her hair tangled. Mascara smudged at the corners of her eyes. Not the confident woman who had texted him at 2 a.m. Not the woman who thought she was making a bold, self-liberating decision. This was the aftermath, the version of her that recognized consequences too late. "Marcus," she whispered. He didn't answer. Didn't even look up. He turned the mug slightly with his fingertips, as if adjusting proportions in the universe. Elena swallowed hard, stepping inside the kitchen. "Are you?" Her voice cracked, then she started again. "Are you angry?" Still nothing. She pressed on, the silence choking her more than yelling ever could. "About the text. Last night? I wasn't thinking clearly. I shouldn't have said it like that. It wasn't what I meant." Marcus finally lifted his eyes. They were unreadable, no rage, no pleading, no bargaining. Just clarity. A terrifying clarity. He spoke with the same calmness he used when defusing volatile situations overseas. "I'm filing today." Her face drained of color instantly. What? "You made your choice," he said, standing up. "I'm making mine." Elena blinked rapidly, shaking her head. "No. Marcus, no, that text wasn't, I was emotional. I just needed space. I didn't mean we should." "Then why send your location to a hotel at 2 in the morning?" he asked, voice still steady. Her lips parted, but no words emerged. She looked cornered. Well, small. He took a step past her, reaching for the counter where a manila folder already waited. Divorce forms. Financial statements. Evidence she didn't know he had collected quietly over months, not because he wanted to trap her, but because soldiers learn not to go into battles unprepared. Elena squeezed her hands together. "Someone must have told you something. Is that it? Did someone from work say something?" "Did." "No," he cut in softly. "I watched you choose." The simplicity of his answer hit harder than shouting ever could. She staggered slightly, leaning against the table for support. A flashback flickered behind her eyes, one she didn't say out loud. 2 weeks ago her coworker Jenna had said, "If you ever break that man's trust, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." Elena had laughed, tossing her hair, insisting Marcus would always fight for them. But Marcus wasn't fighting. Marcus was leaving. He didn't pause to console her as he walked toward the living room. He didn't soften when she stepped forward, tears finally falling. The doorframe cast a shadow across his face as he said, "The break is permanent, Elena." Then he stepped out of the kitchen. Her breath hitched, a quiet, strangled sound, because for the first time since she sent that message she understood. She had miscalculated the one man she believed would never walk away. Don't forget to hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories. Tap the notification bell so you never miss a twist. New tales drop every day. Elena stood in the kitchen long after Marcus left, her chest rising and falling too quickly, her breath catching in shallow bursts. She clutched the edge of the counter as if the marble itself could anchor her, but nothing steadied the spinning panic under her skin. Marcus's calm was worse than any outburst. She had prepared herself for yelling, accusations, maybe even him storming out. But not this. Not the silent finality. The house felt colder now, as though it recognized the fracture and adjusted itself accordingly. The morning light streamed through the windows, brutally honest, illuminating the smudged mascara beneath her eyes and the faint scent of someone else's cologne still clinging to her hair. She wiped her cheek, almost angrily, as if she could erase the evidence of her own choices. Her phone vibrated on the counter. She lunged for it. Maybe Marcus had changed his mind. Maybe he texted something, anything, that hinted at a conversation, a delay, a chance. But the caller ID froze her blood. Unknown number. She hesitated. Then answered. "Hello." A soft female voice whispered urgently as if afraid of being overheard. "Ma'am? I'm calling from the Palisade Boutique Hotel. I shouldn't be calling you, but I thought you needed to know." Elena's stomach twisted. "Know what?" Pause. Then. "The man you came with last night, he told the front desk specifically to block your number from reaching him. Hotel policy usually doesn't allow custom blocks, but he insisted." Elena closed her eyes, her heart stumbling. "He blocked me?" "Yes, ma'am. He also asked us not to let you up to the room if you come back." Her hand tightened around the phone. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," the woman whispered, "you left crying last night. I just thought someone should warn you before you come back here and make it worse for yourself." The call ended abruptly, as though someone had walked in on the attendant and she panicked. Elena lowered the phone slowly. The world tilted slightly, like she was on a ship on rough water. She had expected Marcus to be angry. She had expected him to soften later, to want clarity, closure, anything. But him, the man she thought cared for her last night, the man she thought would at least answer. He didn't just block her. He erased her. She replayed the night in her mind, desperately searching for a moment she could grasp onto. The flirtation that started at her coworker's retirement party. The compliments. The drink he insisted she try. The long ride in his car. The dim hotel hallway. He had made her feel chosen. Wanted. See. But at dawn she woke alone in the bed, his side cold, his things gone. Her messages never delivered. She had assumed it was a temporary disconnect. A glitch. Maybe he was just scared of commitment. Now she realized he simply discarded her. The humiliation pooled in her stomach. Not because he blocked her, but because she had risked her marriage for a man who treated her as nothing more than a temporary thrill. A chill swept across her. Marcus had treated her like a partner. This man treated her like a mistake. Her fingers shook as she set the phone down. She whispered to herself, barely audible. "What have I done?" At that moment, the weight of her choices hit her with crushing clarity. For the first time since 2 a.m., since that reckless text, since the hotel, she realized something terrifying. Marcus wasn't the one losing here. She was. Marcus stepped into the law office just as the doors unlocked for the morning. The receptionist blinked in surprise. Most people who filed for divorce showed up late, flustered, gripping wrinkled paperwork and half-formed excuses. Marcus walked in with the precision of someone reporting for duty. "Good morning," he said calmly. "I'm here to file." The receptionist motioned him toward a small waiting area, but within minutes an attorney emerged. A man in his mid-50s with sharp glasses and sharper instincts. He extended a hand. "Mr. Hartley? I'm attorney Devin Lyle. Come on back." The office was quiet, lined with shelves of law books and framed certificates. Marcus sat across from Lyle, who folded his hands and studied him the way lawyers do when trying to gauge emotional stability. "Do you have grounds?" Lyle asked, "or are you seeking a no-fault dissolution?" Marcus reached into his backpack and placed a neatly organized binder on the table. Lyle raised an eyebrow. "You were prepared." "Prepared enough," Marcus replied. The lawyer opened the binder, flipping through pages that Marcus had been gathering, not obsessively but methodically, for months. Phone records. Bank statements. Screenshots he captured weeks ago when a strange number kept messaging Elena at midnight. All subtle enough that he hadn't confronted her, but clear enough to confirm a pattern. Most people, Lyle said quietly, bring half-crumpled receipts and emotional rants. You brought structure. Marcus shrugged slightly. Habit. The lawyer didn't need it explained, but Marcus's mind drifted anyway, flashing back to dusty battlegrounds overseas. Training missions where documentation wasn't optional. Reports, logs, patterns, details. Everything recorded, quietly, unemotionally because survival depended on it. Lyle pulled a manila envelope from the binder's back pocket. And this sealed one? Open it after you file the paperwork, Marcus said. The lawyer paused. Something I should know? Just instructions. The calmness in his voice made the lawyer study him more closely. Men who were this collected usually weren't spiraling. They were done. Lyle nodded and set the envelope aside. You're not asking for alimony, the attorney noted after skimming the forms. Not even division of the savings account in your name. No. Mr. Hartley, that's $42,000. Marcus's expression didn't shift. She needs it more than I do. And I'd rather walk clean. Lyle leaned back, impressed. Most men don't think that way when they've been betrayed. Marcus didn't answer immediately. His eyes drifted toward the window, toward the sunlight creeping across the carpet. His mind replayed another memory, one he hadn't allowed himself to revisit in years. Elena, early in their marriage, sitting in their old apartment's tiny kitchen, crying into her hands after losing her job. He had taken her palms gently, promising, "You're not alone. We'll get through anything together." He had meant it. Every syllable. He had built his life around protecting her, supporting her, wanting her to feel safe. But safety only mattered to someone who valued it. Elena didn't want stability. She wanted excitement. Validation. Someone who treated her recklessness like charm. Lyle refocused the conversation. I'll file this within the hour. Marcus nodded and stood. As he walked toward the door, Lyle spoke again. You're handling this better than most. If you need. I don't, Marcus said gently. I've already handled it. He shook the lawyer's hand, stepped into the lobby and exhaled, long, slow, controlled. It wasn't relief. Not quite. It was the moment a soldier walks out of a battlefield he should have abandoned long before. And as he exited the building, the sealed envelope sat on the attorney's desk, quietly waiting to turn the final page of his marriage. Don't forget to hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories. Tap the notification bell so you never miss a twist. New tales drop every day. Marcus didn't drive home right away. Instead, he sat in the driver's seat in the law office parking lot, fingers loosely gripping the steering wheel, staring ahead at nothing. The morning sun warmed the windshield, but inside the cabin the air felt cold, quiet in a way that pressed in from all sides. He wasn't second-guessing himself. He wasn't replaying the decision. He wasn't even feeling the sting of betrayal. He was remembering. Not Elena. Not the hotel. Not the text. But something deeper, something that explained why his calm wasn't numbness but training. A flash of desert sunlight seared across his mind. Sudden gunfire. Men shouting. The ground shaking with explosions that sent plumes of dust spiraling upward. Years ago, Marcus had knelt behind a crumbling stone wall with 3 other soldiers, sand caked into the sweat on their skin. They had been pinned down for hours, unable to move forward, unable to retreat, survival dependent on silence and stillness and a level of emotional discipline that most people never experience. One of his teammates, Reyes, had whispered shakily, "You ever think about home during this?" Marcus had replied, calm as if they were sitting in a quiet bar, "Thinking doesn't help us get out. Focus keeps us alive." That moment, the quiet while chaos thundered around them, was where Marcus learned to separate emotion from action. Not because he lacked feeling but because letting feeling explode outward would get someone killed. Back then, after they finally made it out, Reyes slapped him on the back and said, half teasing, half odd, "If anything ever breaks you, I'll eat my boots." Marcus had laughed. Now, sitting alone in his truck years later, the echo of that laugh felt worlds away. Another memory surfaced. One more personal, one that carved a different mark into his heart. It was a hospital room. Dim. Smelling faintly of antiseptic and wilted flowers. His father lay in the bed, hooked up to machines that hummed softly. His father wasn't a soldier, but he had the same steel in his gaze that Marcus would one day inherit. "Listen, son," his father said, voice gravelly, each word costing effort. "A man will walk through fire for the woman he loves. But listen carefully, a woman who loves you won't let you walk into flames alone. Marcus had swallowed hard. Dad. No. Hear me. His father squeezed his hand with surprising strength. If she ever says she needs a break, she's already halfway out the door. And if she chooses to step out even once, don't you go chasing after her. A break is what cowards take when they want permission to betray you. That sentence had lodged deep in Marcus's soul. He didn't use it often. Didn't let it fuel suspicion. But it waited like a warning label for a dangerous substance. And now, in the quiet of his truck, it replayed with razor clarity. The military taught him silence. His father taught him boundaries. Life taught him to observe. All of it added up to one reality. He didn't lose control last night, because he had already learned how to hold it. When the world around him collapsed, the betrayal didn't shock him. The confirmation didn't destroy him. The decision didn't break him. He had been forged in harder fires. Marcus shifted the truck into gear. Turning the wheel, he whispered to himself, "Time to move." Not away from Elena, but toward himself, for the first time in years. Elena didn't leave the kitchen after Marcus walked out. She drifted instead, slowly, mechanically, through the house like someone searching for a familiar scent that no longer existed. Her chest felt tight, her thoughts tangled. Every wall she passed reminded her of memories she never believed would turn into ruins. She reached the living room and sank onto the couch, burying her face in her trembling hands. But tears didn't fall. Not yet. Shock held everything in place like invisible glue. Minutes passed before the first crack in her composure appeared. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it instantly. But the notification wasn't from Marcus. It was a calendar reminder she had forgotten to disable. Anniversary planning, book Marcus's gift. A cruel reminder of the lie she had been living. She set the phone aside and leaned back, staring blankly at the ceiling. The room blurred as her mind drifted backward, far backward, to the roots of her worst habit. A habit she had hidden beneath charm and apologies and romantic longing. Running. Always running. Flashback. A teenage Elena sitting on the curb outside her high school. Her makeup smeared, her backpack half-zipped, her heart shattered by a boyfriend who told her she was too much work. She cried until she hiccuped, and each sob was louder than the last. Cars drove by. Students whispered. No one approached her. No one except her mother. Her mother knelt down, cupping Elena's face gently. "Sweetheart, when life gets too hard, you don't face it. You take a break. You breathe. Then find someone who makes you feel wanted again." Her mother meant well. Her mother wanted her to stop hurting. But that sentence, those careless words, rewired Elena. When things got hard, she didn't communicate. She didn't fix things. She didn't confront pain. She simply took breaks. Breaks from everything: school, friendships, responsibilities, and eventually relationships. She remembered college, storming out after an argument and ending up in the arms of a boy who told her she was pretty. She remembered her first long-term boyfriend, how she justified kissing someone else because they were on a break. She remembered telling Marcus early in their relationship, almost jokingly, "I disappear when I'm overwhelmed. It's just how I cope." Marcus, steady and soft back then, had kissed her forehead and replied, "We'll work through things together." Together. A word she had never fully learned how to honor. Back in the present, Elena curled her knees to her chest. Her eyes finally burned with tears she couldn't hold back. She whispered to the empty room, "I didn't think he'd actually leave." She thought Marcus was like all the others. Someone she could push, someone who would chase her, someone who would prove their love by breaking their own boundaries. But Marcus wasn't built like the boys she dated when she was younger. He didn't crumble. He didn't plead. He didn't wait for her to come back around. He closed the door she left open. Another memory hit her then, one she had shoved deep into her subconscious. The night Marcus proposed. He took her to a quiet overlook where city lights flickered beneath them. He held her hands and said, "I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to stay." Stay. The word landed now like a punch. Because she hadn't stayed. Not when things got hard. Not when Marcus's job became stressful. Not when communication required vulnerability. And especially not last night. Elena wiped her eyes aggressively, but the tears kept coming. For the first time, in her life perhaps, she wondered if taking breaks wasn't an emotional reset, but emotional sabotage. She whispered shakily into the empty room, "What if I ruined the only person who ever actually wanted me?" The silence answered her back. Don't forget to hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories. Tap the notification bell so you never miss a twist. New tales drop every day. Elena didn't even change clothes before driving back to the Palisade Boutique Hotel. Shame clung to her like humidity, but desperation pushed her forward. Her heart thudded violently as she pulled into the hotel's parking lot, the same place she had walked into last night with a flutter in her stomach and false confidence in her stride. This morning the building looked different. Less glamorous. Less thrilling. Like a crime scene she didn't remember committing. She hurried through the glass doors. The morning shift receptionist, an older woman with silver hair and a tight bun, looked up knowingly. Elena approached, trying to steady her breathing. "I need to talk to someone who stayed here last night." "A guest. He was with me." The receptionist offered a tight, polite smile, the kind designed for difficult situations. "Name, please?" Elena swallowed. David Rourke." A faint tightening of the woman's jaw told Elena she already knew the outcome. The receptionist glanced at her computer, typed, then looked back up. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The guest checked out at 5:12 a.m. He is no longer here." Elena's stomach curled. "Can you call his room? His phone must be dead. Or, maybe he left something behind? Maybe he didn't mean to block me." The receptionist interrupted gently. "Ma'am, Mr. Rourke requested your number and any messages from you be blocked from the hotel system. We must follow guest instructions." Elena's throat constricted. "Can you at least tell me why?" The receptionist's expression softened with pity, but her professionalism didn't waver. "I'm sorry. I cannot." Humiliation washed over Elena in hot waves. She backed away from the desk, her vision blurring. She had thought last night meant something. She had thought the way he touched her, the way he complimented her, the way he whispered that she deserved more. She thought all of that was real. But it wasn't real. It was a transaction. She was replaceable. She stumbled into the lobby seating area and dropped onto a chair, breath shallow. Her hands trembled. Her mind replayed everything in brutal clarity. Then she heard the sliding doors hiss open. Elena glanced up. A woman walked in, tall in a tailored navy suit, hair pulled into a sleek ponytail. The kind of woman who wore confidence like perfume. The kind who radiated control. She approached the front desk with purposeful strides. "Checking out for room 508, she said coolly. The number stabbed Elena's memory. That was David's room. The receptionist nodded, handed her paperwork. As the woman turned to leave, her gaze swept the lobby, landing on Elena. A flicker of recognition. A narrowing of eyes. A slow exhale. She approached. Elena's pulse spiked. The woman stopped in front of her, studying her face the way someone examines a stain they can't remove. "You're her?" the woman said quietly. Elena blinked. "Her? The woman my husband brought here." Everything inside Elena went numb. Husband. Elena's mouth fell open, words tangled. I didn't know. He didn't tell me, he said he was divorced." "He lies often," the woman interrupted. Not angry. Just tired. Like someone who had long accepted the truth about monsters they married. The woman reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She placed it on the table beside Elena. "He blocked you because he deletes his mistakes. You were one." Elena's breath caught, sharp and painful. "And this," the woman added, tapping the folded paper, "is who you really hurt last night." Then she walked out of the lobby, heels echoing against marble, leaving Elena shaking. With trembling fingers, Elena unfolded the paper. Inside was a photo. A little girl. 7 years old. Smiling with missing front teeth. Holding a birthday cake. On the back, in looping handwriting, "Daddy promised he wouldn't miss another birthday." Elena's stomach dropped so hard she thought she might vomit. This wasn't just infidelity. It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just a break. She had helped a married man betray his wife. And his daughter. Her breath hitched violently. Her vision blurred. For the first time since this nightmare began, she felt true bone-deep horror for what she had become. She whispered to no one, "Marcus, oh God, Marcus?" Because now she understood. She didn't just betray her husband. She betrayed the man who would have never done this to anyone. Don't forget to hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories. Tap the notification bell so you never miss a twist. New tales drop every day. Marcus didn't return home immediately after leaving the attorney's office. He drove aimlessly, letting the quiet hum of the engine fill the space where conversations, memories and disappointments usually lived. The sky had shifted from morning gold to a flat, muted gray, an in-between color that matched the weight in his chest. He finally pulled into a small overlook outside town. It wasn't scenic, not really, just a vantage point above the highway where cars drifted back and forth like tiny, anonymous decisions. But this spot held history. And history has a way of resurfacing at the exact moment a person needs reminding. He stepped out of the truck and leaned against the railing. The breeze brushed against him, carrying the faint scent of pine and damp earth. Marcus stared down at the highway, but in his mind years rewound sharply. A memory emerged with startling clarity. He and Elena sat here once, long before marriage, long before the small betrayals, long before trust began to erode. It was on their third date. The city lights sparkled below, and Elena had tucked her legs beneath her, shivering slightly in the night air. Marcus had draped his jacket over her shoulders. Back then she had seemed so young. Not in age but in spirit, curious, emotional, unpredictable. It was part of her charm and part of the danger he hadn't recognized yet. She'd looked up at him with wide, earnest eyes. "Can I tell you something without you thinking I'm complicated?" "You can tell me anything," he'd replied. She took a deep breath, exhaling shakily. "I have this problem. When I get scared or overwhelmed, I run. I just leave. Go quiet. Disappear. I don't mean to hurt people, I just don't know how to face things sometimes." Marcus had smiled softly and touched her cheek. "Then run toward me. Not away." He meant it wholeheartedly. But intentions don't fix people who don't want to be fixed. And now, standing where they once shared a hopeful moment, Marcus realized, she hadn't been confessing a flaw, she'd been warning him of a pattern. A pattern he ignored. A pattern she repeated. A pattern now ending their marriage. He closed his eyes. Last night's text, "You don't need to know who I'm with," was the full evolution of the girl who never learned to stay. It wasn't new behavior. It was simply louder, harsher, grown into its final form. His phone, still off, vibrated slightly in his pocket, like a muted pulse trying to break through. He didn't turn it on. Not yet. Instead, another memory rose, one he had pushed aside for months. Elena sitting next to him on the couch 2 months ago, staring at her phone with a guilty sort of panic. "It's just Jenna from work," she had said too quickly. "She's venting about her boyfriend again." But Jenna didn't call at midnight. And Jenna didn't make Elena hide her screen like a teenager. Marcus had seen the slip of a contact name he didn't recognize. He noticed the way Elena angled her body away. He noticed the blush, not romantic but nervous. He asked no questions. He started observing instead. Not out of paranoia. Out of respect for truth. Foreshadowing, he realized now. Pieces he hadn't wanted to assemble. He opened his eyes, looking down at the highway again. People rushed through their lives so fast, he thought. Always running towards something or away from something. Elena always ran away. And he had finally stopped chasing. His phone vibrated again. Twice. 3 times. He turned it over in his hand, thumb hovering over the power button, but he didn't switch it on. Because he already knew who it was. And he knew, with a calm that surprised even himself, that nothing she said would change the direction of today. He slid the phone back into his pocket and whispered into the wind. "You ran. I let you." Then he walked back to his truck. Don't forget to hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories. Tap the notification bell so you never miss a twist. New tales drop every day. Elena didn't go home immediately after leaving the hotel. She sat in her car in the parking lot for nearly half an hour, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles went white. Her mind kept replaying the woman's words, each syllable slicing deeper. He deletes his mistakes. You were one. And worse. This is who you really hurt last night. The photo of the little girl lay on the passenger seat, its edges trembling each time Elena's breath hitched. She kept glancing at it, then looking away, then glancing back, as if the image physically burned her every time her eyes touched it. Eventually she forced herself to drive home. The silence in the house felt wrong. Too clean. Too empty. Too final. She walked into the living room and froze. On the dining table, directly in the center, sat a thick manila envelope. Her name was written on the front in Marcus's handwriting, steady, neat, painfully calm. Her pulse spiked. Marcus. No answer. She moved through the house, calling again. Marcus. Each room responded with nothing but echoes. Her chest tightened, panic swelling like a rising tide. She checked the bedroom. His side of the closet was emptier. Not completely cleared out, but enough that the absence felt like a hole punched through the wall of her life. Her knees buckled and she caught herself on the dresser. He left. He actually left. Tears stung her eyes. Not the dramatic kind she was capable of producing when she wanted sympathy. These were different, raw, unfiltered, unprepared. She staggered back to the dining table and opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were documents. Official. Heavy. Separation paperwork. Financial outlines. A letter from an attorney. And on top, a handwritten note from Marcus. Short. Too short. We're not on a break. We're done. Marcus. The finality of it cracked something inside her. Not a small crack. A deep, foundational one, like a beam snapping in the center of a house. She stumbled backward and sank into a chair, gasping a little. For years she'd assumed Marcus would always forgive her. Always wait. Always be the stable one. She depended on that steadiness the way a reckless driver depends on airbags, never thinking about what happens after they deploy the third or fourth time. Marcus had loved her in ways she didn't fully understand until now. Patiently. Gently. Quietly. Completely. And she had confused that for invincibility. Her tears grew harder, her breath uneven. The room blurred. And in the midst of the sobbing, a memory crashed through her. A promise. A night she barely remembered until now. Marcus sitting beside her on the edge of the bathtub 2 years ago while she cried after a fight with her sister. She had clung to him, face buried in his chest, whispering, "Don't ever give up on me, okay? Even if I mess up. Please don't leave me." Marcus had kissed her forehead and said, "I won't." But promises only hold when they're respected. She tried dialing his number again. Straight to voicemail. She called again. And again. And again. Until the automated voice became another cruel reminder of what she'd destroyed. She slammed her phone onto the table, breath ragged. Then she noticed something else inside the envelope. Not a document. A photo. She lifted it slowly. It was the two of them, taken 3 years ago in front of the cabin he used to take her to, her favorite trip, the one where she had told him she felt safe for the first time in my life. On the back Marcus had written, "You said you always run when you're scared. This time, I'm the one walking away." Her cry turned into a broken, aching sound she couldn't contain. Her past had caught up with her. Her patterns finally destroyed the one person who truly stayed. And as she curled into herself at the table, clutching the photo like it was oxygen, one unbearable truth pressed down on her. Marcus was no longer coming back. Marcus finally turned his phone back on later that evening, sitting alone on the back porch of his friend Caleb's cabin. The same cabin where he had once taken Elena when life felt simpler, gentler. The sky was dark now, a deep indigo scattered with stars, but he barely noticed the beauty of it. The moment the screen lit up, notifications flooded in. Over 40 missed calls, 27 voicemails, and a storm of frantic texts from Elena. The device vibrated so violently it nearly slipped from his hand. Marcus stared at the screen for a long moment, his jaw tightening. He didn't listen to a single message. He set the phone face down on the wooden railing of the porch and closed his eyes. The night was cool. Quiet. Honest. "Thought you might be out here," Caleb said from behind him. Marcus didn't turn. Didn't want to sit inside. Caleb stepped beside him, leaning on the railing. "You look like a man who just took a bullet." Marcus huffed a dry laugh. "Feels like it." Caleb studied him carefully. "You sure you don't want to talk to her? Even once?" Marcus shook his head. "Talking is what got us here. More talking won't fix the truth." Caleb let the silence stretch for a few seconds before asking, "What pushed you over the edge? You've forgiven her for smaller things before. Why was this the final one?" Marcus opened his eyes slowly, looking out at the shadowed trees. "Because this time she didn't hide who she really is. She spelled it out for me." Caleb waited. Marcus repeated the words that had split him in half. "You don't need to know who I'm with. We're on a break." The bitterness in his voice wasn't angry, it was wounded, resigned. "I wasn't her husband in that moment," Marcus whispered. "I was an obstacle she wanted out of the way. A placeholder so she didn't have to be alone between thrills." Caleb nodded, jaw tight with silent support. "But that's not the only reason," Marcus added, voice lower. A memory surfaced, one he hadn't allowed himself to revisit until now. 4 years ago, before they were married, Elena had disappeared for 2 days. No explanation. No calls. No messages. When she finally returned, crying and apologizing, Marcus had held her. She claimed she'd had a panic attack after a fight with her mother and stayed with a friend. He forgave her. Months after the wedding, he learned she didn't have a friend by that name. He forgave her again, quietly, privately, because he believed she was trying to be better. But patterns only grow stronger when fed. And love, unfortunately, can enable decay without noticing it. Marcus exhaled slowly. "I loved her so much I ignored everything she told me about herself. She warned you she ran, Caleb murmured. She did, Marcus whispered. And I thought staying would save her. Caleb's voice softened. You stayed longer than most men would. I stayed long enough to lose myself, Marcus said. His phone buzzed again on the railing. He didn't touch it. Instead, he picked up a folded piece of paper beside him, the same one he had placed in the envelope he left for her. On the reverse side were 2 lines he hadn't written for her sake, but for his own clarity. When trust dies, marriage ends. And our trust died long before last night. He folded it back up, slid it into his pocket, and straightened. Caleb spoke carefully. So what now? Marcus finally answered with a quiet certainty he hadn't felt in years. Now I rebuilt. Without her. The phone buzzed again. This time with a ringtone, someone calling relentlessly. Marcus let it ring. Because freedom, he realized, doesn't always feel like relief at first. Sometimes it feels like staying still while your past claws at your ankles. He breathed in the cool air, steadying himself, letting the night settle into his lungs. He didn't look back. He didn't answer. And he didn't hesitate. For the first time in their entire relationship, Marcus stayed exactly where he chose to be. Elena didn't sleep that night. She stayed at the dining table, still clutching the photo Marcus left her, her eyes raw and swollen. Every sound in the house felt louder, the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the hallway clock, the occasional creak of settling wood. By morning, her voice was gone from crying. Her legs trembled from hours of pacing between the kitchen, the bedroom, and the front door. Every time a car drove by, she jolted, hoping it was him. But he never came home. She tried calling again. Each ring cut into her like a blade. Voicemail. 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 Desperation finally pushed her into action. She grabbed her keys and ran out of the house. She drove to the cabin, the one Marcus had taken her to on their anniversary, the place he always went when he needed space. She remembered once saying, "If you ever disappear, I'll find you there." He had laughed back then, but now that memory felt like a cruel joke. When she reached the gravel road leading to the cabin, the sun was dipping low behind the trees. The air was cool, quiet, heavy with the smell of pine and damp earth. She saw his truck. Her chest tightened painfully. She parked crookedly, breath shallow, and walked up the steps to the cabin porch. The windows glowed softly from the light inside. She knocked. No answer. She knocked harder, voice cracking. "Marcus, please, it's me." Inside she heard movement, just a shift, maybe footsteps. Her heart leapt. "Marcus," she cried. "Please just let me talk. Please. I need you. I made a mistake. I messed up. I know, but please don't do this. Don't shut me out." Silence. She pressed her hands against the door and rested her forehead there, shaking. "Please. I'm begging you." A long moment passed. Then the door opened halfway. Marcus stood there, calm, composed, and heartbreakingly distant. He wasn't angry. That would have meant he was still fighting for something. But his expression held a different kind of finality, the kind a person arrives at after bleeding out all their hurt and finding nothing left but truth. Elena's breath caught. "Marcus, I'm so sorry." He nodded once, but it wasn't forgiveness. It was acknowledgement. She tried stepping forward, but he blocked the doorway without touching her. "Elena," he said quietly, "you didn't just cheat. You crossed a line you can't uncross." She shook her head violently. "I didn't know he was married, I swear I didn't." "He didn't tell me?" Marcus raised a hand gently. "This isn't about him." Her voice trembled. "Then what is it about?" He met her eyes, and the answer was so simple it nearly knocked her off her feet. "It's about you. The choices you keep making. The patterns you warned me about, the ones I tried to love you through." His voice stayed soft, steady. "I stayed for years hoping you'd finally stay with me. But last night, you didn't just run away. You burned the bridge behind you." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I can change, I will change. Marcus, please. Don't give up on me. I love you." "I know," he said gently. "But you love me in moments. And marriage isn't built in moments." She reached for his hand. He stepped back. The world fell out from under her. "Marcus, please," she whispered, collapsing into a sob. "Don't walk away. I'm begging. I don't want to lose you." His voice broke for the first time, but his resolve didn't. "You lost me the moment you told me I didn't need to know who you were with." Her legs gave out. She sank onto the porch boards, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Marcus didn't kneel. Didn't comfort. Didn't waver. He simply said, with finality that echoed into the trees, "I hope you heal, Elena. But I won't be the one you break again on your way there." He closed the door softly. Not slammed. Not locked. Just closed. Because the chapter didn't end in anger. It ended in truth. Elena stayed on the porch long after the sun vanished, her body shaking with sobs, realizing the final, irreversible truth. She hadn't just lost her marriage. She had lost the only person who ever stayed. The night around her grew colder. And the door never opened again.